Let's do it. That wrong. Hey, welcome to Nine
Well,
Midnight.
welcome. Thank you for showing up again.
Thanks for showing up. If you're showing up because we were supposed to go on yesterday and then we were a moment late.
My fault. Totally my fault.
It happens, it's been crazy. It's the end of the year, and then
Yeah, man.
technicalities.
Holiday seasons and all that stuff. I
Yeah.
guess I'll use that excuse. Since we can't use COVID anymore, I'll use that
I
as an
know,
excuse.
right, man? When the
You
best
know?
excuse goes away, what do you do?
It's terrible. That was such an easy one. Ah, man, COVID, dude. You could just drop it like a what they call trump card when you're playing spades. I can't do it, man. COVID, bro. Sorry.
But
I'd love to help you move.
It's my wedding, bro. Man, I'm afraid to even fill up the tank.
You could be like, dude, I was around somebody who might have been around COVID, so I can't show up.
I heard that I might have been at a place where a guy who might have been somewhere else.
There's a possibility of me might have been exposed to COVID.
Yeah.
But yes, that's every day.
It was interesting. Yeah. But today we're talking about a different kind of not an infection, but definitely a
invasive.
Something kind of invasive. Yeah. There's some weird stories here. Tonight we're talking about alien hybrids, alien human hybrids.
Yeah.
And
possibility, the accounts, all there above.
And this is a topic that, again, I never think that we're probably going to be showing people anything super new. Maybe. You never know. It's possible that we'll have something that is so new that someone hasn't heard of, but usually I imagine that we're kind of skimming over surface stuff. But there's so much to this topic. There are like factions and cliques within this, certain researchers don't even want to accept that this other part, and you don't want to give credence, and then other people are just, it's interesting. There's lines drawn in the sand when it comes to alien hybrids and stuff. There's some of this dives into some of the new age spiritual movements, right? Which for people who just, they want to rely on hard science, and they want to find a piece of metal that says made in Pleiades,
right?
Some people will never understand. I surround myself with religious people, though I don't understand religion. I can't bring myself. Not bring myself. I just can't. No matter how much I try, like understand like the belief in faith and everything. But I don't hold it against anybody, and I all the people I love have a faith of a sort, something or other. You know what I mean? It's like
the same thing as science is the way I look at it.
Yeah, but
you gotta have faith in science. Same thing.
Exactly. But again, a lot of times people who feel one way start bagging on everyone else.
Right. You're wrong because you don't believe what I believe.
You're wrong because and me, I've always said
crusades are started.
Yeah, and I always say I don't feel taller by pushing other people down. Right.
Only when you're standing on their backs. Yes, I agree with you.
No, I don't. And it's shaky ground. They're all wobbly and sweaty and slippery. The guy with
you have to slay them, and then you stack them according. You know what I mean?
See?
Head to feet, and then it's a thing. I don't.
Guys, I brought cookies. I didn't want to do this. You guys help me out of the pit.
Exactly.
That's me. But with this alien hybrid thing, I'm just going to start off by talking about Betty and Barney Hill because
that's a good one.
Because we are Nine Midnight, and even I'm pretty sure I talked about Betty and Barney Hill a little bit on when it was a Sasquatch episode. So I mean, you got to start here.
I think it was a duck, alien one too. We did, and we talked about them.
Yeah,
a few times. They're pretty interesting case because they have a lot of different.
They're very integral. They're kind of linchpin for so many things. Even I mean, I was watching something about them that actually had to do with the person speaking about them was very skeptical, and he was very much speaking as if he was proving why obviously they could not be. And I held my tongue, but I still want to hear what other people think sometimes, But it was, I don't know. Now, Betty and Barney Hill, though, to move on with it, relating to the alien hybrids, their story is that while they were traveling home from a little vacation, this is what it sounded like.
Get away,
Day
right?
weekend, whatever, on the way home. Um, they were going through the woods. They ended up seeing something in the sky. They pulled over. They look. They see a UFO. The UFO sees them, and they know it sees them because through the binoculars they see creatures who are
in the windows, right?
And the creatures are looking at them and sending mental signals. You just sit there. You just wait right there. You just wait right there, and they right, and then they came and got picked up, and then they have. I mean, I don't know. I've listened to the hypnotic regression of these people, like, and I don't know. Again, I have. You can listen to our hypnosis episode to hear me.
That's where it was too. Yeah,
damn near bash it. Right, we talked about it there too, because it's hard.
The way of obtaining it, yeah.
The way of obtaining it is kind of scary, but when I was bashing, the idea of hypnotic regression, I think that I was really bashing the idea of using this tool on kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're more leaning towards using it on kids. I agree with that.
And I think my justification for that mentality is the same reason why the American justice system treats someone under the age of 18 differently as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a mental maturity. There's a mental development and maturity. And so when I think about two adults, probably in their 40s, late 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, Betty and Barney Hill, if they, probably reluctantly agreed, okay,
I already skeptic of it, right?
I guess this sounds like something, I wasn't there again. I might be, getting it all wrong, but I imagine that the idea of, there's someone who can make you go to sleep and you'll start talking in your sleep and saying things that you, when you were awake, wouldn't remember.
Sounds kind of far-fetched and crazy.
Yeah,
especially back in those days.
Exactly. Yeah. Back in these days, they'd be like, all right, well, I guess I gotta. They were having panic attacks. They were having horrible anxiety, ulcers. You know what I mean? Barney Hill passed early. It was a brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's related to anxiety. I'm not making that statement by any means, but
sure don't help.
I'm not saying correlation and causation are the same, but I'm saying the correlation of his anxiety and aneurysm, it was there, you know what I mean? And he seemed to calm down after. But what they remember were very sexual type testing. It was, her test sounded very much almost gynecological, but without the preamble of, the bedside manner a doctor would try to employ, right? But
there's always ways to go about that sort of a thing.
and poor Barney's story, it really sounds like,
it sounds like being a cow at a
I was
dairy
right about
farm
to say, if a bull
with a milking machine,
if a bull could talk about, if like a prize bull,
if a bull walked into a dairy farm on accident,
like imagine a bull, and I don't know anything about breeding cows, but I imagine that it's like, hey, I've got the greatest bull of genetics. We've talked about animal eugenics, husbandry before, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Not eugenics.
Not that. But yeah, we've talked about animal husbandry before. But I'm sure if someone has like the greatest bull, steer, of the specific breed within, here in America, on, this side of the Mississippi, then, people are probably paying top dollar.
Oh yeah,
to get a pint, and I'll leave it at that.
And, exactly.
And at that point,
I'm
sure if they could speak English, their story would sound like Barney Hill's. They strapped me down and they put the machine on me, and they were saying, "Shut up already, calm down." Calm down, boy. They kept trying to feed me sugar cubes and pet my nose and say, calm down, boy. It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
So essentially trying to say it sounds like alien rape.
Yes. And it sounds like
I'll say it.
yeah,
It sounds like you
it
got
really does.
alien
Really,
alien masturbatory raped, if that's a word.
and
You know what I mean? Good Lord.
Whitley Strieber actually, he's kind of on the fence with actually whether it's a little bit of new age or if it is actual physical manifestation, physical entities or whatever, that the things that happen to him. I'm not sure with Whitley Strieber, but again, yeah, there's this odd sexual element
Well, I do have
that's involved in some of these alien abduction things, and while they don't always go into it, while people don't always like draw like a hard line, like today, if we're starting out with Betty and Barney Hill, I just wanted to really quick, we're starting out with Betty and Barney Hill because I think that as one of the first cases that really became gigantic in the UFO community, and the fact that their story, even though they never said, and then we met our half alien kids later on, it's like that didn't happen like later on we see people's stories are, but they had the first part. They had our reproductive material was taken. What happens
story
with that?
Well, their story being told and publicized so big and so broadly, even for that time, well, especially for that time, honestly, because the world was a lot smaller back then, you know what I mean? So it wasn't just like they could just go read it on Google.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like once they became famous, we'll put in quotations, for that sort of a thing, you got to live that down. And if you're telling that wild of a story, it almost becomes like, I don't think I would tell that story if everybody was going to find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also something I was thinking about when when I was researching this. Like, we always hear about, like, well, not always, but you hear about like aliens taking cows and like bigger animals and stuff like that, and animals that are, more predominant or easy to get to.
Yeah.
But you never really hear about like obviously like them taking like chimpanzees. Like, there's never been a thing where you're like close to humans, because it's almost like, okay, they can just get the real deal. You know what I mean? They'll test every sort of animal, but why get a human if it's so close to a human, when we've already grabbed a couple humans and we know how their systems work now. You know what I mean?
I also, again, I always think, I wonder if animals could find a way to tell us a story if they're, they say elephants never forget. But elephants say, oh yeah, the metal plates from sky.
Right, the Greys, they're always doing that.
Them, they come down. Yeah, they take us all the time.
Took my cousin 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. It's like, and then there's the human going like, well, I didn't know that, and the elephant just goes, you didn't ask.
You guys don't know. Yeah, you guys never asked us. You've been hunting us for our teeth, you idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't talk like that. You know what I mean?
We don't talk to you guys for just that reason.
We don't share our personal lives like that. But who knows? There might be stories of things like that throughout, and again,
well, all of animals. I mean, also wonder, like, and here's a position I'll take on this too. Do you ever think that it is, or the reason for them taking reproduction or taking us for reproduction, do you think it is a sexual thing or a scientific thing? Like, is it deviancy or science? You know what I mean?
No,
interest.
That I absolutely have never thought of it as a kink or a sexual deviance.
Here's why I bring this up.
Go on. I want to hear why.
And this is why I have these two sides. If you think I know it's weird that I even brought that up, but that's where my brain went because of this subject.
I like it. That's great because I mean, that's good.
Normally, if it's something like scientific, you take a piece, right? You take a part, you take a sample, you take something, and that would mean that you would have to, in some sort of way, I don't want to say destroy or dismember, but we'll say that, you know what I mean? Mutilate. I'll use the word mutilate. That's probably captures it the best. You'd have to mutilate the subject to obtain the information, right? Whereas when it's more of a kink kind of a thing, you don't really have to. It's more of just let's figure this out. Let's poke and touch and explorative.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I want to go back to my example of the prize bull, right? You don't, when you got an animal of that quality genetics, I guess, and you can
Yeah,
make
you don't cut
such
them
money.
off when you're
You
done.
don't. Yeah, you don't end the you don't cut the money tree down as soon as you found out you grew one. You build up a greenhouse around it that no one can see into, make sure, and you harvest it regularly, and you.
That's what I'm saying. That kind of implies that you're
Harvest
using
it regularly.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
realized.
First of all,
I was thinking about a money tree. Poor Barney Hill. Poor Barney Hill, man. I mean, serious.
This guy's getting treated like a commodity now. That's what
exactly.
it sounds like. Because they're gonna make a bunch of little humans, and then need to pump him for his,
Well, it's great,
for his usefulness. We'll say.
I mean, let's just say, Barney Hill. Let's just say, they searched around. And they said, oh, this guy, he's got great genetics. We take a little bit of him, and look, the lady he's traveling with got some good genetics too. But these are just humans, so we got to go back to the other side of the galaxy and mix it with that other species,
right?
And because I mean, they're aliens, and I'm thinking it's something as simple as, again, humans look at AI or other creatures, and they always want to think about how we can enslave it. Of course,
right, conquer and lord over.
It's like, oh, people think about AI or aliens. It's like, oh, these are other like individual living breathing creatures that would be as valid of personalities and soul as we are, and it's like, but they're subservient to us because we're humans, right? It's like
we're presumptuous peoples, humans.
It'll be the downfall, and so but they could be just like that. Let's put our own motives on them, and they're looking at us like they don't even know how to fly off their own rock and make sure to live, right? Like they're basically like, they could look at us like we're animals, and picking us up out of the wild and obtaining samples of whatever is about as clinical and sterile as any laboratory in my mind. Zero kink. But again,
the reason why I say that too is, like, if you think about it, like us as humans, if we look at it like we are aliens, right, to animals, we're the closest thing to aliens an animal will ever, experience, we'll say, besides aliens. We don't go and, well, in the beginning, we go and observe, right?
Yeah.
You try to hide and you observe and you see what's going on. But as you get more comfortable, then you want to take a sample, i.e., some hair, some droppings. And the more comfortable you get, because they're more comfortable, now you start, I'm going to take a dead one, or I'm going to bring back, a small one.
Jane Goodall, I'm going to go live with them.
Say this, I'm going to move in and live with them and become part of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't that sound more scientific and more like how the aliens are doing us? Like, oh, first they come down and maybe they stole, a dead body out of the ground.
Because people talk shit on Jane Goodall for getting her heart involved and stuff. Because
that's because she fell in love. That has nothing to do.
That's what but that's the point.
A scientific thing. And aliens definitely aren't doing that. So
you know what I mean?
Saying,
who knows how ugly we are to them? Or whatever.
It's a scientific process is how I look at it. Like, or eventually you just end up taking one, putting it in a cage, and showing it off to your friends. You know what I mean? Or saying, "Oh, we rescued this one," in quotations.
And you are. I can see the intergalactic news right now. Like, oh my God, this poor woman, she was keeping a human inside of her pod, her module, and she was feeding it wine and Xanax, and she put it in a yellow sweater, and it ripped off her friend's face because this horrible human, right?
They go for the soft parts.
But it's like, now I'm thinking about it as a human. Now I'm thinking about it like fantastic planet, right? All right,
yeah, exactly.
but now if we're all the same size, if it's about us and this, like a chimpanzee and a human, like, yeah, you're giving me. I'm sorry, I feel bad for the lady's friend and the lady or whatever happened that day with this incident. But I mean, honestly, if I'm a chimpanzee being drugged and forced
out of the wild,
I am just waiting. I'm just waiting for the moment I can grab a face, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I guess
I'm gonna escape through violence,
But I mean, I can't imagine I'd fare well in any kind of confinement. That's just me.
I don't deal with that as well, and that's funny because like what we're talking about, the whole subject with the hybrid stuff, like if they are coming down and it is a scientific thing and they are using us to make hybrid us's, right, or hybrid humans, like to what end is also what I started to think about. So I'm like, okay, originally when I was researching it, excuse me, I was like, oh, okay, they're doing it so because my stupid movie that I wrote, like humans are batteries, you know what I mean? So like the best batteries basically because we're conducted, blah 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 blah. I'm like, they're doing it so they can make more efficient batteries. Because I was thinking about this, like, man, like we only have lithium right now, lithium ion and all that, and it's only so good, right? But before we had NiCad, and NiCad was like, oh my god, you can make a battery so much smaller, you know what I mean? And then we went to dry cell and all these other like those are all hybrid forms of batteries. And I'm
Yeah.
like, my movie is becoming more and more true. You know, and I started to
Well,
like think about it that way. Like, okay, what if they
how
are
do you
just
relate the
using us for
batteries
something like
to
that?
us as so like do you think that they're growing non-sentient
No, no,
organic
no. Like, no,
globules,
they would
or do
have
you
to
mean
be
like
sentient.
do you mean that batteries in the sense that a society that relies on a slave class
No,
that
no. I look at it like
I think
they
that's a
literally.
possibility,
I think yeah, I get what you're saying. That's a good thing too.
you know.
A good idea. I was thinking it more of like they literally have like human hybrid beings that they use as electrical conductors, essentially like a battery capacitor, you know what I mean? Like that's all they use to fly their ships around, like that simple of a thing, to be like, yo, you know what, if you mix this
I
this
can
alien
see
and this human together, it's the most efficient way to power something,
I can
you
see
know what I
some.
mean?
I can see something like partially organic technology where yeah,
Yeah,
basically it's like
you never run out of energy if you keep
the
this thing
genetic
fed. And
material, like if you had a machine that, and I'm just making something up, but if you create like a half human heart, half alien kidney, it actually will process this chemical properly, which we then refine into the fuel source or something.
exactly.
But we only need to mix the material to create this artificial genetic organ type thing, not like creating a whole
Organism,
human
yeah, yeah.
being. I don't think of it
I just
like
think
a
I
whole
think of
human being. I
creating a
don't
whole
think of it like the
being. I think that's
Matrix.
funnier.
I
That's
think
what
it's
I think. Yeah,
funnier,
Matrix-y
but
kind of.
I
It's
do
funnier and it's a
I've been
better
thinking
movie.
about this for so long that like I get kind of like serious in my head. Maybe too serious, I guess, about it. Where I'm just like, no, no, this is when I'm asking you for the math. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like I'm just like, hang on, how the alien battery? Because no, no, I'm gonna have to say
Right.
no, no, no. Now, as far as we are living, breathing creatures, unfortunately, humanity's own history as a weapon against itself is proof that, you know what, these 10 digits and the fact that I can stand up, pick things up, and move them, I am a living, breathing resource up until I work myself to death, moving
Right.
bricks. And so, from as simple as, oh yeah, how did we get so rich and so great with technology that we know how to fly across the galaxy? Because we don't even lift our forks to our own mouth. Why don't you pick up your apron,
All
human,
right.
and put it back on? I mean, if they're just like they're almost to 9 billion on the planet, they're almost to harvest, they're almost
Right.
to,
They're almost ripe.
right? Like what if that's all? What if
Yeah.
we've just not hit the number where they come and they take, so many? What if they come to a point where they can take 90% of the humans on the planet and there's still
And
enough
restart. Yeah.
for just
For
10,000 more years?
for reseeding, I think you would call it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like a
and
farmer,
then
looking at it like a farmer.
yeah, or like, hey, we found 200 new planets that humans can grow on. So let's go take 6 billion of them, and then we'll split them up on those other planets, and then that way, whatever our food, whether they eat us, whether we are, maybe. I mean, this is one idea,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's a dark one that
There's a
we are,
million ideas I have of this.
that
Yeah.
we're used as food or fuel or a slave serf class, and again,
Gestures,
uh, zoo,
entertainment,
the
in
zoo,
zoos. Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
like
there
battle bots.
there is now within the alien hybrids, there are some other claims that they're not as apathetic. I don't even, because some of those, like, honestly, I don't want to call it evil, because then I would have to say that, like, all scientists who mess with all animals, whatever. I'm not going to call a veterinarian evil for putting a needle into a dog when they're trying to help, right?
Yes, intent versus, outcome.
So I mean, what if again what if they're sick? I like the idea that they are
Looking for the cure. Huh?
They're looking for their cure.
I like it.
Okay,
that one I like better. Okay.
What if a lot of people think that they all look so identical? Again, that would be just to us. That's kind of racist. Again, they all look alike. Anyway, not going to go there. But if everyone says all the Greys look alike, I'm just saying, what if they're all clones and the genetics are broken and
getting too thin,
and we walk on two legs, we have two arms, and well, all the other aliens in this part of the galaxy don't, and they can't get anywhere else, and they're stuck in this part of the galaxy, and they just gotta they're just here hoping they can make the genetics work so that their people don't die. What if they're trying to save themselves? What if they're trying to make themselves better? Because so many different things. So many.
Be
things.
Careful, because we're running into the realms of Stargate.
Again, there's some Stargate stuff in there. There's a new TV show coming out. There's a new TV show that's going to come. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's the original creators. I am excited, but I'm also wary. I'm wary these days.
I always am wary, Beats, just because my Star Trek's been destroyed. So,
well,
we don't gotta get into that. We don't. There is aliens in that too, but
are you watching Picard? Yeah. Are you watching Picard?
No, so I haven't. I don't want to pay for that streaming service because it's only 3 things on there that I want to watch.
I know.
So I'm like, I'll ask one of my friends to let me use their code or something when it's finished. I'll probably watch. I'll just go through and watch all of it. You know what I mean? One of those kind of things.
Thanks to a family member.
With Game of Thrones too, funny enough.
Oh, the new Game of Thrones. I'm all caught up on the new Dragons.
The old one. I haven't seen not one episode of it.
Really?
I'm doing that on purpose. I'm ignoring everybody trying to tell
Picard's
me about it.
Different though. Picard, I know. When I'm talking,
Picard, everybody tells me
when I'm talking to you about
Picard, it's better.
I think
it's good. They're saying.
It's a continuation of TNG. So I haven't started it. I've not watched an episode, but I've only heard good things. And
that's actually, now we're talking about hybrids. That's something that I always thought was funny too. That he's one of the only captains who always kept it in his pants. You know what I mean? You heard of his love interest every once in a while, like few and far between.
He was like the forlorn. He was like the dark looking out the window.
Yeah, like
dark
I'm a
looking out the window,
first,
like damn,
and explore first.
Why did I have to be so strict with myself? Right? Why couldn't I let myself just have one fun night?
I could just fall in love in the middle of digging up these, archaeology subjects and whatever.
Just fly off with Q.
But it's like, then you look at Captain Kirk, not so much. That dude was like, "Oh, you're blue. Hello, my favorite color. Did you know that?" Like, Jesus, man.
Unfortunately, I can't
every other
speak
episode he's like
about the flavor yet.
Yeah, he's got his arm around some green alien that's, like, "Oh, hey, good to see you again, Sheila." Like, holy crap, man. It was a different time, obviously.
It was the swinging 60s.
In the 60s, it's like love, peace, love, and,
I mean, and it was peace, love. I mean, that show literally was the first show to have the interracial kiss. To show and they didn't make a big deal about it. Everyone else made a big deal.
This is the thing. Yeah.
They didn't make a big deal about it because, we're in the future, right?
Like, there's
aliens. In the future, no one gives a shit about that no more, right?
Like that.
And then so the only other episode I can remember where it came up was the episode where they met like the clone of Abraham Lincoln, and he used like a word that is racially charged, and then like Uhura and everyone on the bridge, like of every race, they all like to Abraham Lincoln, they all like turned their head and they went like. They all like,
right? You don't know, yeah.
And then he's like, why is everybody laughing at me? He's like, oh, oh, it's the future, so no one would say a word like that
Yeah, no one
anymore.
uses
And then
that.
Uhura looks at him. She's just like, no, but I mean,
Whatever.
you'll get it. You figure it out.
Yeah,
And they're
it'll
all
come
just
around.
laughing at him because he sounds like a caveman,
Right.
right? And
Archaic. Yeah,
because
archaic thought.
it's like he sounds like a dumb, ignorant caveman from the past. You know what I mean? Like
It's a funny thing too. Like even with all that, like having them fall in love and everything, like you never once see them having babies or like any. It never. Well, actually, in
Spock
TNG,
himself is a
he is a hybrid.
human
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Vulcan hybrid.
yeah. In TNG, they do have a couple couples that are like I don't interspecies. I guess is the way we would call that.
I
You
think
know
I
what I
think
mean?
in the future we'll just call it mixed race, especially if you
Well, you can't
can.
call it race because it's not a
Well,
race of person.
I
It's a
just
whole
don't even
nother
like the idea of race anymore. If we have aliens that we can not just
intergalactic. We got to come up with a better
we're
word for it. I
I
mean,
mean, we already have the word. If we're all, especially if, like I say this about all humans, if if my people can mix with your people, if we can all make babies, no two humans make mules, right? And in Star Trek, they would have, if there was you know, what was it? Oh no, that wasn't him. But anyway, someone else had, they had an alien wife or alien husband, and then they had a half alien, half human baby, and yeah. Oh,
Worf actually,
Worf,
Worf. Yeah,
because she was, yeah, Worf's
yeah.
wife, or
Worf's wife
Worf's wife was half human,
was half human,
and
so
so the child
therefore,
was a quarter human.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Worf was full
Yeah,
Klingon, but raised by, wow, I'm it's all coming
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. All right,
Who wants to
I'm proud of
challenge
you.
the
I
Trek
am
man?
proud of you,
Thanks,
sir.
thank you.
I just
Raised
thought of it like, oh wait, Worf actually was one too, or
no,
Worf had one too. Excuse me.
Worf was full
Yeah.
blood Klingon. One of the thought to be the only survivor of the Kazon massacre. I think no, the
No.
Cardassian massacre. The one thing, but anyway, then he
Yes,
got adopted
Kardashian.
by those two nice Russian people. Anyway,
Sichenkos.
Chenko. Yeah, that's a
Or
Russian name.
Chenko.
Yeah,
Yep.
not bad. Look at me with all
Yeah.
my TNG
Right.
knowledge.
If you're gonna have it, you better have that one.
Yeah, exactly.
That one will make you move places. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. Now, back to our own world for a moment. Now, actually, even before you know, before Betty and Barney Hill had their experience, there was and I asked you to look him up, so we didn't get to talk about what you thought. But in 1957, a man named Antonio Villas-Boas, a Brazilian farmer, later became a lawyer, and he said that in 57 he was abducted by aliens. They took him onto a spaceship. They rubbed him. They stripped his clothes off and rubbed him down with this weird goo. And then they walked out of the room. And then he's like sitting there, and this goo. It's like they're very descriptive in like the ways it kind of was irritating him. His body seems to be irritated. But then there's another effect that comes from this gel in a moment. Then as he's kind of, I think, itchy and feeling warm and weird with like the stuff they put on his body, then this other kind of alien, but kind of human. And now this is a story, like the way it reads to me every time I read it, is it almost sounds like, and again, this is before 1957, Betty and Barney Hill were 1962, 1963, I believe is there in their story. And so in 1957, he says that the person that then came in the room, I think it sounds like, kind of like a human alien hybrid. And she was very sexy.
Attractive female, long platinum blonde hair.
Yeah.
I'm reading from his book, actually.
Yeah.
In a little excerpt.
And they even describe the color of the
fire red.
The hair, fire red, and I mean,
fire crotch, to be technical.
Hey, that's a good way of putting it,
That's what it says.
And again, let's just say, if there's one thing we know about humans, genetically, there's something about like, hey, yellow or bright red hair or bright blue or green eyes, and when that's different to you, people dig it. Who knows if that's all it was?
Exotic.
exactly. There you go. And so as she came in, and well, they went for it. They went. He did it with
Well,
he
to his account, he resisted. It was a forcible intercourse.
Resisted a little bit, but he also wasn't too mad about it, because he also wasn't married. It wasn't like some like too. Yeah, and, you know, when it was all over, she rubbed her belly and made some gesture. So she kind of, and he got the impression that she was just like, ooh. Thanks for the baby.
Oh man,
we're leaving.
See you on Maury in a year.
Antonio Villas-Boas in the
paper, right?
In
Manila folder, baby.
In the case of Zorplapian Dynastisramp.
Exactly.
Antonio, you are the father. No! God, I miss Maury Povich.
Buddy the man.
That's what I want to see. I want to see the Maury Povich of us being brought up, and like, can you imagine like Alien Court? You know, just like a human being brought up into Alien Court, and we're like looking around,
feel terrible,
and they're just like, somebody. There's like, sir, your genetic material was found inside of. So it's like, I'm a human.
Never do that. I would never do that. Well, you're killing yourselves. We don't do that. So you guys are terrible creatures.
We found a bunch of human alien hybrid clones who are trained to be warriors, and they've been going around killing a bunch of people. Right. And so now we're going to take it out on you, Mr. Kaplan. And I'd be just like, I'm a human. If you know about us, we didn't even know that you guys had all this stuff up here. We didn't even know how to get up here ourselves. You guys had to come pick me up. We didn't make the half alien.
Right. We didn't do that.
We have a theory about a problem about getting taken and kind of molested for our genetic material, though.
I kind of don't like this, you guys. And by the by.
And I don't know if I'm like allowed to, but I think that I should just represent us all and say, our people and your people should chat.
Yeah, stop it. Let's have a little sit down.
Who's taking all of our materials?
I did like about.
I really went on to a whole tangent there. Sorry.
That's all right. Alien Court gotcha.
Alien Court, man.
You were starting to defend yourself for real.
So many eyes, and it was only on one face.
Gabby. It didn't happen to you. It's okay. I was going to say about his account, the Boas guy. Mm-hmm. Like the thing that I did like about his account that you, the one that you told me to look him up. Like he actually, after the fact, he was scared, so he went to the doctor, and a doctor said that he actually had radiation burns.
He had radiation burns,
which it's like you're out in the middle of a field.
Yeah,
how are you getting radiation burns? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is something that also occurs in a lot of these weird stories where people have these odd marks and an obvious radiation or an odd disease, or hey, you've got a sickness no one's ever seen before. And I mean, you know, who knows if you just got the latest, intergalactic chlamydia. I'm just saying.
All right.
I mean, who knows? And again, back to what you were saying. I mean, you asked me the question. Do you think there's any fun in it? I mean,
I'm saying she came down and was like, I don't
know.
Now he's mine for however long I want. You know what I mean?
I don't know who you watch here on YouTube or anywhere else, but there is Justin Wang. He has Wang, WHANG. I don't know if you've seen him. His most recent one was, I can't remember the country, but they had an orangutan who was being used as they shaved that poor orangutan, and they put perfume on her, and let's say the men visited a certain part of town in this area, and this poor orangutan was used and allowed to be. Yes. So imagine that. Imagine
this is why we can't go to Alien Court. Like,
exactly.
We're going to lose.
This is why we're not allowed.
Our credibility is destroyed, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my loving.
Do you see what I mean? But my at the same time, my example is going to be, what if there are aliens who have weird kinks about those dirty half-bald monkeys called humans, who think that they're so smart because they got the internet but can't fly off their blue-green rock? right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
it is a kink. I
what
would
if it's
agree
a
with you there.
kink? What if it's a
A
kink? I
real
mean,
weird kink.
there are weird people who have things for.
That alien went back to her husband like, "There, I did it."
Imagine if, and I'm gonna click the button. If you want to go ahead and scan this, you can. For anyone who is watching, you can scan that to call. If you're listening, there,
Or
you can.
chat in. I did see somebody
Yeah.
chatted yo to somebody, whoever the somebody was.
Hey, hey.
Good to see you.
There you go. Popping in now. How you doing? Thank you for chatting in. We're doing well. Talking about some aliens coming down, trying to.
Also, here's another thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie Titan?
The new one with the Sam
Yes, the newer one.
Worthington.
Yes.
I
Okay.
like that. I kind of like. I
Kind
like
of.
the concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the concept kind of reminded me of this when we were talking about it off air. Um, that would be kind of how I would see them trying to test out, like you were talking about the cure. That made me like go back into that movie because I was like, oh man, they were trying to make us older, so to speak, but same way we test out everything, it never turns out to be what we think it's going to be. You know what I mean? LSD, super soldier, blah, blah, blah. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? List goes on and on. Like that could be something that would happen too. Like I wonder how many actual hybrids that are here, i.e., our best athletes, you know what I mean, are actually alien hybrids or spinoff of alien hybrids because of their testings, you know what I mean, of
Yeah.
trying to get testing. And these humans that are now like superhumans are essentially just hybrids. You know what I mean? It's not that far fetched of a thought.
That's an interesting one too. I mean, with all of these, that's an interesting one.
Also, I'll drop another bit
Yeah.
of research that I started to go down the rabbit hole and actually was able to draw myself out of it. Um, so if you think about aliens in the terms of how we normally do, little green men in spaceships, right? That's one direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
That's one
whatever.
direction. That's not how I
The,
usually think about them, but go
right,
ahead.
me
Yeah.
either. Me either. The other direction is just any other being from any other planet,
Yeah.
right? Or any other place. Let's be particular about that. Um, if you look at the Bible in this way, and are you ready for this? Okay,
I'm gearing up
because
now.
we both have a spiritual background to some degree.
I
Well,
was
to
raised that
a
way.
large degree. Yeah, a large degree.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Bible as exactly like what we were talking about last episode, actually, is just a story or an utterance. They talk about angels. I was going to say aliens, angels coming down or being cast out, and the watchers. In if you look in the King James version, it
Mm-hmm.
talks about the watchers
The Watchers. Yeah.
being up in heaven and watching over humans and pining over them and wanting, to live the humanoid life.
The Watchers were the ones who looked upon the daughters of men
Right.
and found their
Right.
appearance pleasing. Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't going detail, but yes, you got the idea of it. So they got kicked out of heaven, came down, right? Mated with our female form, and created what? A hybrid, like we're talking about now. A
Exactly.
giant race of people, which not only would this is the weirdest part why I stopped going down the rabbit hole because I was like, I'm turning this into something totally different in my mind.
But go on.
It is on point. It is very much on point. I agree with you. There are no accounts that say that Nephilim weren't here. There are no what do you call it, history or no scriptural things that don't talk about giant humans, Nephilim.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Every single culture has them.
Every single culture has giant humanoids or giant
human.
On our megalithic, when we're talking about, giant megalithic, before the term megalithic, they used cyclopean because the Greeks believed that before they got there, all that stuff was built because when they showed up, it was already there, right? But when they got there, they thought that the Cyclopses who must have built it before we got here, right? So they said cyclopean. So
and
again,
it brought me down
giants.
this all because they talked about these hybrid people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all these stones and like quotations, grave marks or markings of in certain areas,
like
Malta, Cyprus, not Sudan, Sudan, other places,
Yeah.
anyways, and they're like giant headstones, right?
Yes.
Like you would do a grave site,
Mm-hmm.
giant headstones, and some of these headstones have designs on them
Mm-hmm.
that look
Mm-hmm.
alien-esque,
There's the
which
I believe it's in
which
Pumapunku. It looks like depictions of all the different races around the world. Like
yeah,
and there's another head that looks like a gray alien.
the
Like
History Channel actually kind of dipped on this one too because of those stones, and Oak
hmm
Island and all that was kind of in the same area. They were not area, but same realm. They were finding stones, and it has this picture of this one where this like bird angel looking creature is coming down to Earth, and that was a headstone. Like he was from here to there, and that's how they would mark those headstones, like where you came
the
from and where you
Birdmen.
ended up
Yes.
being. Yeah, like a birdman. Yeah, which I
The
was like, man,
yeah.
that's insane to think that, we always think of it as a analogy, or like,
hmm
like, oh, they mean this, because we try to think of it in newer times, and we try to think of it in as of right now, as opposed to thinking of it like this is actually what happened. They're very simple people, so they wrote out exactly what they saw. What I mean,
It was a
like
man who came from the
a man with
sky.
wings, or a flying man of
It,
some sort would be a birdman.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how you would describe it if you were a 2-year-old toddler. Birdman came down, giant birdman. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's what it would look like. Yeah, if and again, it makes me think about again, if we were able to see these things, we would have a different context, right? And
Of
so,
course, yeah, yeah.
if
Perception is everything, right?
if everyone in your entire nation and country and civilization, if everyone just knows that the bird people come
It's
down,
just there's giants.
it's just basic knowledge, and then so like, okay, well,
You wouldn't be
whatever.
as fearful because
I don't imagine any
that's a
civilization
thing,
ever expects to fall off the face of the earth and just disappear. And so then some have, and so then
yeah, yeah,
some
very much so.
people later on go and they go a couple 100,000 years ago, people must have, and then they immediately think what these people who built this amazing stuff must have been so stupid that they thought that it's like, what are you
Right,
thinking? Look what they built,
right.
and look what
Well,
they
yeah,
and look,
exactly.
it was so important what they built, but then do you think that they defaced garbage, or do you think they put like some important events on,
Right,
like,
right,
this is
right.
what happened?
Marked it down like,
By
yeah,
the way,
hey.
we built a pyramid to prove how
And
damn important it was. This is tough for us.
right? This was hard for regular humans, so we had to use our giant friends to move these
Yeah,
blocks. You know what I mean? If you think
right.
about it, it's like, what? How do people who are really strong do things
And that's an
together?
interesting way of putting it, giant friends, because when you talk about the Bible, now the Bible never paints the hybrids, the
They
Nephilim, the giants
well,
to be friends of
it
ours.
never well, it talks about them as basically like ravenous, but not murderous. It never talks about them like just going around killing off humans. It always talks about them basically just spreading seed. You know what I mean, so to speak.
They seemed
Because
almost
all they did was
indifferent. Again,
all they did
seeing
was
us as
like,
lessers.
yeah, exactly. All they did was think of us as, F toys. You know what I mean?
Exactly, But
That's how I
again,
look at it.
the fact that that's in there makes me think that they were not giants in the sense of
I think
Attack on
larger
Titan,
beings.
like
I mean,
50,000 story, 50 story. No, I think
I'm
maybe,
thinking 9 foot, 10 foot person.
sure, right? 9, 10
I think
foot,
that's not crazy unreasonable. We have 7 foot people now. So a 9, 10 foot person, when you see a 7 foot
Yeah,
person,
absolutely.
you look in awe. You're like, whoa, that
And
person is gigantic.
your brother's what, 6'7",
6'8".
6'8"? Man, it just
And he towers. Yeah, he
it's
towers.
insane. It's
And he's only 7 inches
insane.
taller than me, and he towers. It's like, whoa, this
It's
individual is not
just
natural. Yeah,
and I've never seen Shaquille O'Neal in person. I've never
have,
seen.
and he looks like an alien. It looks like some
I
creature
imagine.
because
I
he's so
imagine.
huge. Yeah,
But then you see.
such a one-off. It's a custom job. You know what I mean?
Think about the Princess Bride. Think about the Princess Bride when you see
Yeah, yeah.
Andre the
Andre the
Giant
Giant.
right next to Mandy Patinkin. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's
puts his
like,
hand over his whole head,
and
like. That's a crazy thing. Like,
Th-
wow.
That's
They
not
talk about him drink.
computer generated effects. That's
They
not
talk about
practical effects. That's
right.
one
It's
man
real.
putting his hand on another man's head.
Putting his whole head in his hand. Yeah. They talk about him drinking like 36 beers
In a night, like
in
not
a
even
sitting.
catching
Yeah.
a buzz. The guy was beyond. Like if there
I'm
was a
like, that's
Nephilim, yeah, you
crazy.
know what?
He's pretty close.
Maybe I need to go to church on Sunday because I've seen Andre the Giant, and that guy drank how many beers?
I mean,
And he
just that
drank
much
Coors
liquid.
Light too, right? It was Coors
Yeah,
Light. He was
Coors,
a
yeah.
Coors guy. Silver
Yeah.
bullet, right?
I mean, just
Oh
that much
man.
amount of liquid is like, whoa, let alone an alcoholic liquid. But yeah, like that. I mean, that's all I was thinking. I
Little,
started getting
yeah.
down that hole because they just were talking about like giants. And then I was like, oh man, that
But they're
actually
always referred as hybrids. They are
hybrids,
they
right?
are human hybrids. They are
Right. They don't,
in that
yeah, they don't ever bring it up as like there was some separate thing. It was like this was a mix of
yeah.
us and something else. And the reason why they brought that up too, and why I bring it up, is because they did find in '97 some remains of a giant individual, and they were able to do DNA testing on it. And the DNA came back as part human and part basically like in between Neanderthalic times and what was the one that you talked about last
There's
episode?
like the Denisovians type.
Denisovians, exactly. It was in between that time period.
Yeah.
So that means that they were able to, you know, procreate with the giants of the time.
And it's what I was thinking. You know, I think I brought it up when we were talking about the different kinds of ancient or extinct rather hominids and hominins that we are either cousins with or descendant from. But we see that there were Neanderthal and Denisovian. We're, and we were Homo sapien, but now we're Homo sapiens sapien, right?
Right.
And so but again, my mentality is you're telling me that now the people who are here are a mix of all of those. Then that means that we were all close enough.
The parts fit in some sort of a way, right?
Because if you can, like, okay, yeah, then when
simple Legos,
when
you can't
when Europeans didn't think, when they thought they were going to run into India traveling west, and then there's this whole other two continents that they had not even heard of because the people who got there, they traveled from Siberia. They at the time when they were coming over here, they didn't even really know much about that side of Russia. You know what I mean? They knew about the Western, Moscow and all that. Maybe
that was all barren area. That
they didn't know about that. And the people who lived there were the descendants of the same people who crossed over into America on that side, right? And so nobody knew that when they were going from Europe west, they thought they were going to hit India, and then. But when we found people, other human beings, that we were 2,000-year genetic delineation. Guess what? Our males or females and theirs make babies that are fine. They're the same. Like, yeah, we grew some new sicknesses that the other side didn't.
Yeah, DNA strain slightly different, weaker or stronger.
Yeah, we also didn't have the same spices. We develop immunities because of some of the spices and the foods we have, and there's different foods and it's exotic, and there's a lot of different. But we all make children that grow up to make children. We don't make mules. That's what I always say. Like. As humans,
a funny example,
yeah, because look, if there
two horses can't make a mule, right?
I mean, exactly, 2 horses can't make a mule, 2 donkeys can't make a mule, but apparently genetically, a horse and a donkey are not
the only thing that
are not supposed to have offspring, and the DNA is the judge in that, because the DNA says when it happens, the offspring is not allowed to make offspring, right? They make it sterile.
Can't make offspring,
That's the point. So, like, okay, sure, you can make one generation of a temporary hybrid, but it's not. But if
not long lasting,
if something isn't natural about it, then that creature usually can't procreate. and that's
I
what we
wonder if there's
learn
any
when we
other
do it.
animals like
Again,
that.
just husbandry. But like,
Yeah,
but if we can breed with Neanderthals and whatever, I have Western European descent, so I have up to 4% Neanderthal, right? People who are Aboriginal Australian, they have up to 8% Denisovian DNA apparently, right? But guess what? Like Denisovian and Neanderthal humans could mix, so it's like so that it's kind of like we're finding different races, and again using this weird lens of I think that if we can breed, I think if we can breed and make hybrid species, that we're all just people. And I mean, again, other people, maybe even aliens, don't see it that way. They just see it as you're not scientific enough, so you're an animal, and so we're just going to use your genetic samples. Or maybe they're hoping, they come keep testing us to see if we're at a level to, who knows. But I think that if you can mix, man, I think if you can mix, that it's all just people, right?
it's all peoples,
It's all
right?
just people. But if aliens got to work hard to like make a slave race or make hybrids, if those hybrids are not viable or something, if there's like a like the new Star Wars, if there's like a room full of like Snoke clones somewhere, like
Right.
that are like nasty and malformed, that's like if the genetics don't want to take to each other,
Yeah.
in the same way that
Some
I
mutation.
yeah, I don't see
rejecting
yeah,
DNAs.
yeah, I don't see myself or any other human being on this planet as different species of any different sort, really. And
Some people I feel like they are, but
well,
that's a different subject.
yeah, I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? But usually, not based on what you look like or anything. Definitely, like
Right, that's personality.
you might open your mouth and say something that makes me wish I was not genetically similar
Right?
to
I
you
do
at
not
all.
agree with you.
But it's never what you look like,
Right. Who you are, not what you are.
Now I'm sure I couldn't grow to hate your personality so much that I absolutely hate even just the sight of you. I'll say that, but
Right.
but it's not like. But again, that in that same way, I don't think that Neanderthal or Denisovan were they're just other humans. It's like we found another race, and then now we're talking about them like they were just a whole other thing. And again, like what if all white people were gone, and then everyone was just like, oh, and then there was a white balding monkey that walked around with us for a while, and like it's like if we can prove they had culture and we mixed with them and we actually have, they're our ancestors. Why are you talking shit? Like literally,
Yeah, why are you
they
saying
are
that?
our
Yeah.
ancestors. We have like there are people that have their DNA. Why are you talking shit? That's fam. That's fam now, right?
Right. Who
Whether
cares? Yeah.
whether it's step fam or twice removed, once removed, they just married in. Whatever, man. It's all fam now. Like
Yeah. That's the accepting view. That's the accepting side of you.
that's me trying to be accepting, of course. But
Yeah,
alien,
that's good.
forcibly,
I was gonna say we're not talking about them coming down accepting. We're talking about them coming down and taking.
Well, there
You know
is
what I mean?
also, what about Brad Steger? Did you look into Brad Steger at all? He kind of
Isn't
is.
that the one that you told me that he kind of goes
Well,
wackadoo and makes it seem a
I don't
little
know if.
not?
I mean,
I
so
didn't delve into him actually because I think that was the guy you told me.
I think what it is he kind of had this spirituality sense of. I think he's kind of the beginning of like the star seed
Okay.
type thing, where people believe that maybe it's not an invasive. There are physically people being taken. This is a different side. So I'm moving on with like the hybrid thing. From like a
Right.
physical taking and like genetic compatibility. You know what I mean? Like I think people.
Right.
No,
Right.
this is more of a. He started this whole. Babylon 5 is one way. If anyone out there is a Babylon 5 fan, there was the one species that had they had, they're bald and they had the thing on their head, and then there was Delenn transformed into a half human, but they found out that all of that was possible at the end because blah 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 blah. There's something about the souls. Again, there was spirituality on Babylon 5. The souls of their alien people were being reincarnated as human beings. They found that there was some sort of spiritual connection between our species, where their people, like, they were of a spirituality where, like, they would all recognize, like, the reincarnated souls or something, if I remember correctly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that very much
oh, it's
sounds like
you.
that.
But
Yeah.
then no one was showing up no more. And, like, with their species, like, so there's less of us. Like, we can't have
Right.
kids anymore because the bank of souls is bankrupt, because the
Right.
humans are taking all
Right.
our souls. And so that's what it was. That's kind of what this is an idea of. Now, with people who believe they are star seeds or star children or something, a lot of times there are people on both sides who think that they have physically interacted with aliens and are made part alien or something, but then there's people who think that they were communicated with, or Enocked away. I don't know. I mean,
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, when I discuss even Enoch is the book of Enoch is from the Apocrypha of the Bible, right?
Apocrypha. Yeah.
It's I I've never talked to someone who read it and, like, saw it exactly the same. It's like some saw his analogists, and other people are like, no, he just said he physically got taken on a spaceship and met aliens, but he kept calling them. Like, he met them all. He met them all on a big metal ship in space, and they were talking about their plans and stuff, face to face. And it's like it reads funny. It's like, yeah, I understand why they kicked it out. How do you get that anyway?
Yeah, it's
Right?
hard to explain.
But with that, it's like, man, I lost my train of thought on there. But if Enoch's account, it, there's a lot of spiritual connotation, though it sounds very physical, right? And so, whereas people kind of will quibble on that point, there's people who have very new age spiritual, like, I'm in mental communication with aliens. There were people on Sally Jesse Raphael in the early 90s or late 80s
Oprah.
who would, yeah, and they would, like, do like a
right, be absorbed by them.
I am now right. Like,
right.
people
Possession.
would do some. Yeah, it was, and again, yes, that's what it is. It was almost like they were being possessed. Again, having this weird.
Yeah.
But that's something that kind of, and again, that's what I was talking about earlier when I was saying that there's kind of these factions, cliques. There's people who want to prove aliens and alien hybrids, and they believe that they were part of these processes of, like, being taken as an animal would of the wild, being tagged, right, being taking samples, taken up, probed, tested, tagged, and thrown back into the wild. A very physical.
That just reminded me of that SNL skit.
Yeah, and then there's other people who, I mean, what would Harry Houdini have done? Right?
Right.
Harry Houdini went around, he was an illusionist, a magician, one of the best of all time, some would say, and he spent a lot of his later life debunking fake psychics and anyone involved in the spiritual movement, spiritist movement, because one spiritist pissed him off. Because one person said that they were talking to his mother from beyond the grave, and they said something that his mom would never have said, and he was like, now I hate them all. And he just went around with a fake mustache and proving them all wrong.
A lot of people that do that with a lot of religious stuff and scientific stuff all the time.
It's like, you just get, what do you mean?
Like the apostates and stuff like that go around of different religions that, like, one bad thing happened. Yeah, one bad thing happened. So now everybody who does that is terrible. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, dude, bad situations happen all the time. Don't take it out on everybody.
Well, but he was only searching out people who were taking advantage of people, right? And so he was only searching out that. So it's kind of like getting fired from a job or something, and then getting.
How many people got in his line of fire that maybe weren't, is what I also was saying. Like, when you get mad and you start doing stuff like that, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Move on with your life. Move on.
Yeah, I get it. Trust me. Hey. He he had some weird karma, maybe karmic retribution. You know, he didn't have time to prepare for that punch. But we're getting a little off subject. You know what I mean? Someone sucker punched him, and that's how he went out. But you
Right.
know, anyway, we digress. But I guess I was trying to talk about the spiritually side.
Yeah,
of
spiritual
it,
as opposed to physical. Yeah, which
yeah,
I did look into some of that stuff, and a lot of them, like that movie that I told you about with
yeah, William Shatner. I still
William
need to
Shatner
check that
again.
one
Thank you.
out.
Yeah.
What was it just called again? I have it
Oh,
written down over
dang
here,
it.
but I'm gonna
I
take a
think
look at it.
I forgot what
It was called like The People, right, or
the
something.
people. Yeah, the people. That's it. Yeah. Basically, like the way that the story is explained in the movie is kind of hard to watch because it just drops you in. It's like, this is happening, enjoy, and we'll explain it maybe. And then at the very end, it's this big long explanation where you're like, what? Because it talks about, I don't want to ruin it, spoiler alert, but you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
you can. Yeah.
skip ahead 2 minutes, anybody who's listening.
Yeah.
Uh, basically, it goes into explaining how they're like, you know, um, human vessels for aliens. And the aliens found out, oh, we can do this. We just have to keep these group of humans away because if you get sick or if they get like, you know, hurt or damaged, you can't use the vessel. So
Hmm.
every time they come in, they can use their vessels as with powers because your human and alien mix, the hybrid, makes you have powers on Earth, but not if you transcend and go back to like the home world. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like a like what
It sounds the
at
way
the
you
end of the
describe it
movie.
kind of reminds me of like, did they try to make a grown-up Witch Mountain kind of a thing almost?
No,
Escape
not
the
so
Witch Mountain
much.
Race 2.
Not like that. No, like that was more like they were aliens, right? Direct aliens. They weren't like possessed. You know what I mean? Those were aliens that just happened to look like kids.
But they also didn't even know how they got there, right? Or did they know how
I
they
know, but
got
still,
there?
it's like they were like crash landed amnesia. So not like that. It's more or less like we know that we're aliens.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we're vessels for aliens. We have to stay in this valley and not do music, not do anything that makes you happy. Like, and some of them are like symbiotic. Some of them can feel each other's pain, so you have to be careful because again, you don't want to damage it. Like, it wasn't really
Interesting.
a witch mountain. It was more of like a vessel kind of a thing. Like, preserve the Ziploc bag because if you get a hole in the bag, it ruins the contents. You know what I mean? Like
Gotcha.
that
Okay.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And if you
If you
keep it
break
in
the
the bag,
hermetic seal, then ignore
exactly,
the expiration date printed on the side.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
In
And
case
if
of
you keep
tampering, do not purchase this
right,
bottle.
do not purchase exactly.
If this seal
If
has
seal
been
is broken,
busted, do
yeah,
not buy this
yeah.
bottle
Also,
of
like if this
off-brand
if
medicine.
you keep it sealed, it's stronger.
Yeah.
So it's like you're just fermenting
Okay.
and getting stronger. You know what I mean? So
All
like
right.
you have now and then, and the longer they're in you, the more powers you get. You can start to use telekinetics. You can start to talk to
Which
people through
mountain
your
again?
mind.
Sorry,
You
go
can
on.
you can start to no, I'm not even done. That's just
Okay.
happens to be one. It's the same time period. So yeah, it makes sense. And then you can also use one of them is always a healer, so they can heal each other based upon whoever is the strongest of that healing tribe of alien. It was kind of wild where I'm like, what? And if she and if you were hurt, you would heal them, but you would take on their pain. So like if you had a broken arm and I healed you, I would have a broken arm now, but I would have to heal myself would be slower because I gave you the power to heal for a second, enough time where I can't heal myself fast enough, but eventually I would heal.
Hmm.
Spoiler alert, end.
All right, no worries.
You know, but
Something,
yeah, that's
yeah, something tells me someone makes a noble sacrifice and it ruins the cycle, breaks the chain, and everyone has to go their separate ways. No. Anyway, nope.
The movie ends completely like oh okay, this is what happened. They literally have, I'm not even exaggerating, a 10 to 15-minute rant about what you just watched.
There's that one movie. What is it called? Like Anna and the Machine or something like that, or Anna and the Formula, or it's about like the girl who was cloned, and there's like all the different clones, and they're all trying to get like a clone of the woman who, and like there's all these girls, but you don't even really know everything about it up until the end when they just exposition you everything at the end. Like the last 5 minutes are just, oh, so this is what the whole movie was about, huh? yep, I guess that was what the whole movie was about. And now and now I'm telling you that I'm the impetus. I was the protagonist. Ah, now I get it. You were behind it the whole time. Well,
Weird.
I guess that's that. And then you just okay, great.
That's exactly how the movie ends too. It's like we explained it all. Goodbye.
The most memorable thing about that movie for
Like
me,
what?
yeah, it was I was like, oh, this is something that the guy from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the star of Nightmare on Elm Street, he must have done this movie right before that. Other than that, I
Oh,
can't
really? Like
really.
they stole it?
What?
Like they stole it?
No,
Stole
no,
the
no,
idea?
no. Like the act.
Oh.
No, I just mean the actor who was like the main actor in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the worst one. He was also an actor in this movie, and that's just a little film fact. Just the same actor was in one movie and the another movie, and that's really the most memorable thing. I didn't know what else that guy would have really ever been in. There you go. Yep. The rest of the movie was not that great. But again, clone, hybrid, there's a bit of a correlation. It made me think about, and the way you said it, the way it ended, it's like made by the same people. Now, if it's kind of like a spiritual thing, like a spiritual possession, then that would be, again. I don't want to even say spirit again. You know, me. I guess I want to think of evolution, and if it's possible to, science fiction has ideas about evolving to a state of a still being a living creature, but that is comprised of energy, and you don't need a physical body anymore. Just a basically, like what keeps the collection of light particles together. My thoughts.
Right, your thoughts,
That
yeah.
I'm what keep myself held together. What are you talking about? I again, I don't know, but I imagine that if there
Anna
is
and the infinite power, by the way.
and
Anna
in the
to
infinite power. There you
Anna
go.
to the infinite power, by the way.
Anna to the infinite power.
Anna to the infinite power, and Mark Patton is the guy you were talking
Mark
about.
Patton, yeah. So it's Anna to the infinite power.
Anna to the infinite power.
So she was just an exponent. I get it. I thought it was Anna and
that one word just changed the
yeah.
whole movie. Yeah, I love that. You're like, oh, actually.
Yeah. It was all
That's
math
funny.
the whole time.
The whole time.
The whole time. Anyway, but I guess everything is, so a mathematician would say, or a scientist.
Right. It's easier to explain that way.
Right. But yeah.
1982. Sheesh.
82, right? What was I just saying? So yeah, okay, if there are beings that could be comprised of all energy, then we, with our simple human brains, might look at that and say angel, right? Now, what if it's not? What if it's just like, what if they don't want to come hang out and like show themselves to us anymore because we kept writing books and calling them angels, and they're just like,
kept trying to worship them.
They're just like,
how annoying is that? I.e., celebrities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who get out of the limelight as fast as they can because they're sick of being in it.
Again, they call, the Nephilim, they call them giants, right? And I always think of it because there's also a term in it that's used only one time right next to the Nephilim. They say, they say, and I've never understood if it meant that it was that they were contemporaries, or this is another name for Nephilim. Most people say it is just another name for Nephilim, but they said it was and those were the times of the men of renown or something. So there was like men of renown. I had one person one time from the religion that I was raised in. They explained it to me that the men of renown were basically like superheroes that like would take on the Nephilim. And I remember raising my eyebrow when I was a kid to that, and I was like, "Do you mean like the Justice League? You mean like the Avengers were like protecting other humans in the past from the half angel Nephilim? Is what you're saying to me?" And that's kind of how he would put it, and he kind of was vague about it. That's interesting. So I don't know. Most other places will say that they're the same, but it's like
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that story that way. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what are the men of renown? I'm just curious about that.
The way that I was told was those were like the people, the men who like set themselves up to be leaders, like the biggest and highest leaders, and were like basically forcing down the class below them, kind of a thing. Like they knew that they could, like, they got together and basically were like, we're going to be the leaders of the lands. So we're going to take over and do this. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. Well, almost like if you had like a group of bullies. You know what I mean?
And so then it was probably, if that's
So
what
it's
it,
just kind of like
in
if
that
they were
context, it
giants.
makes it
You know what I
sound
mean?
again like
Yeah,
it's a
like
correlation of the same of different terms
yeah,
that part of the Bible is saying they also used this name for them, men of
yeah, because it's like
renown. And again, renown, men of renown, making yourself famous, making yourself a giant.
right.
I don't think that the giants were larger in stature. I think that they
I think
were
they were
known.
really
I think that if there were, I think that I think the way I
more of
read
an
it from
acronym than
the way I read it from the Bible, the spiritual way, right? Like I don't see it as actual giants. It's just like
I
looking in the
interpret
Bible.
it.
I see it as people who are just so much more like look at the way people treat Elon Musk. I'll put it that way. Look at the way
Yeah,
some
on
people,
high. You mean?
yeah. I mean, all
I
right,
look at it
in
kind of
2,000
a
years,
combination of both.
books are gonna talk about him in this Jesus way, and other books are gonna talk about him like the man who ruined blah 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 blah. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like
Well, I think
some
it's a mix of
someone's
both, in
so
my opinion. Yeah,
galvanizing. Someone's so
I think of it
galvanizing.
like if you look at the way they talk about like Kobe Bryant, right? Like Kobe Bryant was, you know, one of the best
He
basketball
was a
players
giant. He was
ever,
a giant.
and he was a really tall, really big man. You know what I mean? This dude wasn't scrawny, so giant, yeah. You know what I mean?
Played on the court
Giant,
with
not
Shaq though. Is he still
I
a
know, but
giant?
I'm still,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
but one giant versus another doesn't make it less of a giant, just makes two giants. You know what I mean? So it's like
but again,
also
we're still talking
also
about
I
people
think
who
that's a
are humans.
semantics thing though.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's
like the
kind of why I
largest
think it
human
was a
being
mix
was what
of
nine,
actual
ten
both.
feet tall or something. Of course,
I don't
not
know back
physically
then.
well. Like I think it was just in the 1800s. Someone got to be about 10 or 11
Oh, I
feet
was gonna say
tall, and
I
it
think
was
the tallest man was like, yeah, like 8 or 9 feet.
it's
But he was like he couldn't stand, so
you know, yeah, exactly. But again, there are places in the world that venerate people who are born with with genetic factors that in other parts of the world they don't venerate and consider them holy people. You know, they would consider them people who are unfortunate, right? So there are, and other people would say, oh, this baby born with a tail is holy and blessed, just like so and so from our history. Other people would say that poor child. I wonder what's wrong with the water down there. Must be living in Flint, Michigan. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
and so that's all I'm saying. You know, history is written. You know, history is read by the people who only have access to that which was allowed to be remembered, right? And so,
Right.
you know, Gilgamesh is talked about like this giant man. They don't quite say he's Nephilim, but he also is one of what I thought might be one of the men of renown if they were not Nephilim. But at the same time, for a human being, he was also one of the bigger of stature men. Like that's kind of said. That's said in a way that is slightly different than like they were giants, men of renown. They were just they put themselves and they
It kind of
terrorized. Do you see what I mean?
kind
Like,
of yeah, it kind of still sounds like you're mixing both. Like, okay, he was a great man in the world first because of what he did and what he was known for. Also, he just happened to be really big. So it's like, well, that's a giant. That's a goat. You know what I mean? What we would call a goat nowadays. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's kind of how I look at
you
that.
say
Like
the goat.
you know what I mean? We say goat. Like
Yeah,
when people go back and read us calling people goats, I mean, like, oh, they had goat men.
yeah, they had goat
No,
men. No,
you know what I
we
mean?
say
No,
greatest of all
greatest
time.
of all time. It was an acronym. Same
Yeah,
kind of thing. Like I think of like even the word Nephilim is a translation. Like the word originally was like Shem, Shem with the umlaut thing over the e, which
umlaut.
basically Yeah,
Sorry, go
no.
on.
Which basically was like a man of name, a man of great stature.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it like directly translates, but like they translate it like so down to where we can try to understand it became Nephilim, which was like giant man or man of giantness. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, I guess depends on how you're looking at it or how it's worded, you know, that kind of a thing.
Translation is
I do
going
think
to come into play and bite us in the ass for a very,
oh, for
very
sure.
long time.
That's the phone telephone game.
I
I
mean,
do think though, like getting back to like
yeah.
the hybrid thing, like with that being said, like I was saying, like those people that are of higher intelligence, you're talking about like Houdini and all them too, like it's not that far fetched to think that the select few, because of all these people that are famous, not famous, but all these people that are you know, predisposed to being better at one thing or at a lot of things, for example, you know, either athletic or mind, that they are the small amount of hybrid, you know what I mean, the small amount of hybrids that are existing amongst us. And the only reason why I say like amongst us, like the Outer Limits episode that I was telling you about,
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of a thing remind me when you were talking about clones too, like the Outer Limits episode, basically where they were showing like, okay, we took alien DNA and mixed it with humans to see what would happen, and then it's like, crap, we figured out that aliens are actually cloning humans. It's the same damn DNA, you know what I mean? And now
Yeah.
they're able to take over because that was like their way back into the gene pool kind of a thing.
I think I do remember that one now. It was like post-apocalyptic, like a
one.
war zone type one or something, maybe.
It was hang on,
Maybe
I got it pulled up right now.
Yeah, but I did just think
it's
of
called
some
Special Edition if you want
special
to look it
edition.
up.
Okay, I'll look that one
A
up.
special edition with Alan Thicke in it.
Okay, well, I just
or season 3, episode 18.
Of the newer ones, of course, the ones from the 90s. Now, again, he said Alan Thicke, not the 1960s ones. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say, especially when it comes to history and the way people are remembered, people of today, 2022, people, you know, and ever since Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, people always, you know, we have this idea of Napoleon Bonaparte, emperor, one-time emperor of France, right?
Yeah.
Napoleon Bonaparte, right? He was not that like as short as everyone, but
yeah, he was average, yeah.
Because of history, we better hate that guy. So you know what? Yeah, and he was little too. So people are just
syndrome,
which, by the way, and it's 2022. So don't make fun of someone for their stature. History, right? Even if he was short, leave the man alone. He committed enough atrocities for the biggest of men. All right. Yeah. So okay,
for that. I think that's fair.
Make fun of him for the bad stuff he did, the people he killed, and the entitlement to take over other people's lands. Sure, but leave the man's hide alone. It's 2022.
Why? What are you adding on to for?
But the point is, he still was not this tiny minuscule person,
or little person, or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, he was. You know, sure. I mean, is also again, how many times have I had to bring up on this podcast? Don't most people try to always say like, well, people were shorter back in the day. I don't. It's like I'm pretty sure that there's like an ebb and flow. I'm sure like if your grandparents' generation had a bunch of poverty and you know there was like a depression and blight, then you know what? Then they might have had sick kids who weren't as big, and then if things got better, then great grandkids. All of a sudden they're getting big and healthy and stuff. We have a problem with getting too big too fast these days.
Right.
God bless America. Anyway, this is what I'm saying.
Set the record straight. He was 5'6".
5'6"?
That's average.
That's average.
Super average.
Napoleon Bonaparte was 5'6", and when he's depicted, they cast Vern Troyer, rest in peace, but they cast Vern Troyer for Napoleon. Why? You know, I mean, they'll try to cast Warwick Davis, but why? Because they dude, I'm just saying they would go to him.
New Willow's coming out.
Can't wait. Warwick Davis, one of the absolute best actors of all time. But that's what I'm saying. You know, like when history wants to venerate or demonize someone, they just say that's how big they were physically. You know, like they were the biggest man I'd ever seen. They were so powerful. They made sure any historian who wanted to say I was under 6 foot tall was killed. Because I'm 5'11". I went to the doctor yesterday morning and found that out. And I'll tell you what, any historian who marks down that I was less than 6'3" shall be executed. You see what I mean? It's just that easy. If I'm in
Giant
charge,
podcasting, I'll say it.
yeah, why not? If I'm in charge, then yeah,
Podcasting Nephilim.
yeah, exactly. If I somehow was smart enough to become the ruler, then all of history would remember my name and not Joe Rogan. Nah, they remember Joe Rogan, but I'm just saying. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm just saying. Love Joe Rogan. I'm just saying.
Fired.
I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
Kidding.
If I was a Nephilim, sure, I'd be the guy who's 12 feet tall, and I would make sure the guy who is 12 feet tall, Joe Rogan in this instance, we take his name out of the book. I'm just saying,
his knees
right?
down a bit.
There you go. Right? That's how history remembers
he didn't
it.
Have very much hair. I'll say it.
And I don't have any. I've got none.
Pick.
Yeah, do you see what I mean? Find something.
Pick one little thing.
Yes.
His mustache was too thin.
And in 200 years, I'll have everyone saying that Joe Rogan is only 2 feet tall. Did you know that?
Exactly. Joe Rogan's beard was fake. Cappy's was real.
It's insane things.
Joe Rogan
just
wore
write it in the book
and write it down.
Write it in the book and tell my apostles to go 2 by 2, and everyone will
march amongst the land.
I'll tell you what, it'll just take 50 years before people are just like, did you hear how short Joe was? No, I'm joking. Years, I love Joe. He's just so big. He's just where I had to point. You know what I mean? That's it. That's all it is.
Point up when is that?
Exactly. You know
what I mean? Punching up. That's nice.
We're not a binary star system in the Milky, right here. And so there's not 2 suns. We're not Tatooine, or else
not Tatooine. Yeah,
we'd have names.
Always a
for
Star Wars
that
reference.
sun.
You got it.
Got to do it, man. You know what I mean?
I thought we were making it.
Sometimes I do just stare off into the distance.
All right.
But I have to make the noise myself. Anyway,
Exactly.
Some hybrids in Star Wars too, but we're not going to go there. So I want to check out this movie, but I'm going to take it away because I keep looking at it. Now,
which one? Oh, the people.
The people. Yeah, I don't want to look at that one anymore because that one is that one's interesting. Now, again with the starseed thing with the spiritual inhabiting, we did kind of get a little sidetracked with the idea of the human historical spirituality, which is religion, whatever that people have. These hybrids are there as well, and so back to like modern day, there was a doctor, and I brought him up before, Dr. John E. Mack, and he passed in 2004, but for years.
Oh, I thought it was. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, it was 2004 when he didn't pass. He was killed. I need to look at yeah. Go on.
By the way, how he was killed was pretty wild.
Why don't you tell us? Yeah.
If you listen to every historian and the way they talk about him, they just say that he didn't look to his left. That's like the running.
Look to his left?
That's like the running kind of not joke, but like he was unaware to look to his left because he was in London when he died and he got hit by a guy who was drunk driving, essentially.
A man who came from America, in America, where we always teach children to look both ways.
Right. And the other thing I'm thinking is,
unless we Berensteined away, what did we teach kids in America?
Well, I guess
I'm from a universe that always told kids to look both ways before crossing the street. What do you mean he didn't look left?
Ways, but even more so when you're in another country that you see cars coming from the left more.
You look both ways 3 times more.
And be like, oh, I'm going to look because a car is going to come from there. You don't look automatically to your right because you're from a state where they come from the right more. That doesn't make sense to me, where I was like, why does every YouTube video that says, oh, you died, well, not every, but like 90% of them that I watched were like,
the man
didn't look to the left.
The man was a tenured Harvard professor. He won Pulitzer Prizes. His first Pulitzer Prize was in 1977, and it was for The Life of T.E. Lawrence, aka Lawrence of Arabia. He won a Pulitzer Prize, or he was, before he ever found out about people who believed, and the way he looked at it in the beginning was people who believed that they were abducted by aliens, and he was a psychiatrist.
A mental problem. That's what he was trying to figure out.
And he's it's the John E. Mack Institute, but these days, but it was the Center for Psychology and Social Change. But they've changed over to there, and okay. This man, he forgot to check the street before crossing. That's the
Yeah.
explanation. Okay, interesting.
He
All
was
right.
he was
Yeah.
that in depth in whatever he was thinking that come on now.
The man. All right, like Lawrence of Arabia. This is just like history type stuff. Stuff that has nothing to do with. He was a giant. Let me put it this way. John E.
You
Mack
can't use that word so
was a
loosely.
giant of a man. Yeah, he was. I mean, he was a giant in academia, and then after he was already, I mean, like John C. Reilly. All right, John C. Reilly, he gets he gets his drama Academy Awards. He's like proven himself. All right, yeah, on paper, I showed everyone in the Academy I can act as good, if not better, than almost anyone. And then what does he do as soon as he gets everything? Man, he does comedies now. He's Steve Brule. He has so much fun. He has like the coolest looking career ever,
he ran with it, man.
And I mean, and his dramas from the early days, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, he earned dude.
He proved he could do it.
Magnolia. Ugh, gosh, I almost hate that movie. It's so good a drama. But he's phenomenal in it. You know what I mean? And then now as Steve Brule, crossing his eyes and being silly. Gosh, that's what it is. But yeah. So and maybe that's how he saw it at first. John Mack, Pulitzer Prize winner, tenured professor at Harvard, and then what struck his fancy? These people who have the belief that they've been abducted, taken. So he starts looking into it and starting to come around to there's something going on here. Then and he was also, I think he was supposed to speak when he was hit by a car. Yeah, he was hit by a car. It's not just that he didn't look and walked into oncoming
he was hit
traffic.
by a car that rolled him up on the hood, hit the windshield, and he died on the scene. Yeah.
I need to look this up. How many? I believe there were more than one male individual in England that day named John Mack who was struck by a car, though. I need to look that up. Let's see. I'm gonna look that up right now.
That was an interesting thing when you said that to me. I was like, "What? No way! That would be a wild coincidence, non-coincidence." You know what I mean? Put a hit out on somebody in the 1960s. Oh, we didn't have a picture of him, so we killed all of the John Macks.
Yeah.
No worries.
Oh, I need to look that one up. But anyway, he talked to a lot of people of a lot of different sorts. Some of the people would have memories of seeing other human beings, and they would kind of have these vibes like maybe they were being bred with this other human being, and that their offspring were being kept for some reason. And so, like, women would recall, I was bun in the oven, now kitchen's cold, I don't get it, like, what happened? And then there were some people who, like, he would meet and they would describe some. I think that he'd actually, because of John Mack, like, there were people who met, like, two of his patients or someone would meet and they'd be like, oh my God, it's you. And like they would, weird stuff. And again, I don't know how far he went. I don't think he ever came out and said, I believe in aliens, but I think he acknowledged something is going on. Something is going on, whether it's whether it's something in the human subconscious that we all have this capacity to do a thing that some people can do. And he was on the verge of something, but yeah. It's really weird the way he passed, but
I do think it was interesting too the one case we were talking about too off camera where he went to the kids in Ariel in Zimbabwe, the school
Ariel school, the Zimbabwe case,
and he looked into it, and the way that he researched it was probably one of the best ways that you could ever hear about someone researching an alien case. He went into it like okay, this is mass hysteria. Let's figure out how tightly knit this hysteria is. And when he found out that it was like dead nuts, everybody same thing, that's when he started to be like, this one maybe not so much hysteria, maybe a thing, you know what I mean?
And not a debunker either, not like I'll fix this problem. Like everything that I've ever seen about the man, the more research I do, he just seems like he was someone who actually cared. I mean, when child psychology first kind of became a thing, he was like, sign me up, I want to be a better psychology. I want to get better at all of it. And just like one of the first child psychologists, like the tippity top, he's known for that more than anything. So yeah, when 65, 66 children are traumatized by what their account is a flying saucer coming down and a little gray creature with big black eyes coming out and telling them that, hey kids, when you all grow up, all of your people need to fucking clean up this planet because we're trying to invite you to the Galactic Federation, but y'all are scary. Okay.
Right. You guys are messing this up.
And yeah, John Mack got freaked out when like nobody knows child psychology like he does at this point, right? He knows he does. He gets flown to Zimbabwe to talk to these kids, right? He didn't shell out money. Harvard did. Of course, Harvard wanted him to talk to these kids. Who better than our guy on the scene? Do it, man. Yeah. There you go. And so, yeah, when that happens, he knows. He knows that of anyone, John E. Mack would have known when a kid was lying. A 65 kid conspiracy for aliens. He'd have cracked it.
He went on Oprah too, which is kind of wild.
Oh, the Oprah one with the siblings and stuff.
He went on Oprah too.
He brought like the two siblings. Was he on Oprah once or twice, or was it just the one time? I know there's one time he brought two siblings, and the brother was just like, Oprah starts like asking these real probey questions. It was very like early '90s Oprah. It was very pokey. Not so much the like gentler one. It's like, we're all brutes in the '90s. But anyway, even Oprah with her getting to the bottom of this, right? And she was calling out the brother like, how come you're not talking much over there? And he like was shaky. He's like, I don't like to talk about it because, and he basically was like almost saying like, because I try to repeat in my head over and over that this can't really have happened. I don't want to believe this. Yeah. I don't know how to not, but I mean, I hate the experience of what my life has been. And basically,
it's kind of interesting. Like you can't find any accounts of that stuff too. Like he interviewed and taped all of those kids.
Where are they?
And very few of them you can find.
Yeah,
like it's not easy. It's not an easy find. You kind of got to dig to find it.
It's really just like those few news clips from back in the day. A lot of the issues were with the I don't know if they were officially part of MUFON at the time, but there is a woman, I can't remember her name, Kathleen something or other, maybe. Or no, it's not Kathleen Kennedy, not the person who ruined Star Wars. But anyway, I think it was someone else who really kind of saw like the Ariel School case as an opportunity to put her name on the map as a ufologist, and I think kind of made it hard for other impartial parties to kind of get information. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh hi, I the way it seemed when I looked into it, people would be like, hi, I'm from so and so. We wanted to come down and see if we can't take a look and help out. No. I'm here. I'm the one who does it here. Is how it seems. But again, I don't know. But yeah, if that stuff
also
could come out more.
I like the way that he approached like the aliens too. Like he never said that like, oh, they were aliens as in like from another planet. Like they could be from a parallel universe as well. Like it's like we always say, or like we were just talking about, like alien is just a term. It's not a directional
it's basically
thing, or
not
a point of reference.
It's not.
It's a point of reference. You know. Yeah. What I mean? Yeah.
And I mean, even if gray aliens were to turn out to be the genetic children, the descendants of human beings from the future coming back in, they're so far in the future, they know how to travel in time, and they're coming all the way back here because evolution went the wrong way. And sure, they can travel the stars, but they're dying, and they need the ancient us. We're the ancients. They need our ancient genetic samples to try to fix what's wrong in the future or something. Like that's one idea that people say. Like, and again, maybe we look at them and think, little and big eyes,
inferior, weird.
But what if they look in the mirror and and they go, "Oh my God, look what humanity's become.
Look what
Look what humanity's
look what
become."
happened to us. Yeah.
Then you got to go, I guess, travel to a place to, I mean, look, how would I put it? If every nation in the world got sick except for one nation, the people had the immunity, then I think that the scientists would say, look, even if you don't want us to, we're going to come into we have to figure out how to cure this. We are.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, no, you're not coming into our nation to research our ways and figure out why we're not getting sick. And it's like, you know what I mean? We eat spoonfuls of the germs and we get healthier. And you guys, no, you can't search. All right. Every other nation would show up and say, that's it, on the ground. We're testing your food. We're testing the air.
Checking you out.
Right. I mean, that's just what would happen, human on human. So imagine if there's genetic issues, like imagine hybridization. Again, I mean, we see that people seem to, I don't know, when races mix, people get all sorts of new attributes. They don't get like the sicknesses. Oh my gosh. Right?
I know you're not on the socials, but they're talking about, this is like the biggest thing that was going around. Like this interracial couple had one black daughter and one white daughter. I'm like, no, they had two mixed race kids. One happens to be lighter than the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, and it happens. Looking at it, it happens. Also, if you look at those two, look at those two girls, right? Because they're twins, right?
Right.
Yeah. Those two girls have identical faces. It's a trip. It's a trip. Those girls are sisters. And yeah, the melanin content in the two of them is different.
One's a little dark, like my kids. And yeah. One's lighter, one's darker. Why is this being turned into a thing of?
It's crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, but again, you know what? There was a time in the world when if a man in his tribe saw a woman in another tribe with red hair and green eyes, then it was war, because I'm the chief and she will be the genetic donor to my future heir. And that was just how people thought. You know what I mean? Helena Troy.
Bash her on the head and drag her back to
what were her scientific accomplishments again? What was it that she brought to politics and democracy and philosophy of the time? I'm sorry, Helena Troy is remembered as a really pretty girl, and the war. Like, people start wars over stuff like that. It's weird.
Yeah,
Cleopatra, who
Alexandria.
She was a Greek anyway, but for some reason the Greeks were in charge of Egypt at that time, people. So no, they didn't know who built the pyramids back then. Anyway,
they didn't care.
Yeah, it was already there. It must have been us, because we're so great, because we're in charge now.
Look,
we must have always been.
We did this. Yeah, exactly.
But again, I mean, with the stories of all ancient religions, their hybrid stories can be thought of as, what if the Nephilim or the demigods Hercules, Perseus, what if they are all just misunderstood accounts of alien human hybrids, right? And so there's that idea. And again, through time, those stories, if they are just straight up aliens and humans bumping uglies, slapping skin, and then it has to be, well, I mean, it was just it's a crazy thing to see people, to see Shaquille O'Neal, the man's 8 foot tall. Oh, we have to, in 200 years, we have to remember him as more than just a man, right?
Well,
have you had that shakaroni pizza?
I think no, I haven't.
I'm just saying.
I think it depends on how our language, progresses too. Like our language in, let's say 500 years is going to be completely different. So like we were talking about and joking, like we're going to have goat men,
I mean, why
that's
not?
going to be a thing where people are going to be like, "Oh, they had goatmen in 2022." Like what?
I mean,
we're saying it's an acronym.
You brought up that movie. You brought up the movie Titan.
Yeah.
And I actually liked that movie a bit. I liked it a bit because I liked some of the concepts in it, because I've always thought since I was little, I remember they would say, "Oh, well, there's no oxygen on Mars," right? And I said, "Well, what if we could make people that were part plant?" I grew up watching those 90s cartoons, and so sometimes, someone falls into a vat of goo.
Movie, by the way. God.
right? Like Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Don't get me
I was
wrong.
thinking Troll too, but go ahead.
Oh man. Okay. Wow. I don't care what happens for saying this out loud, but I can't sit through it. I've never seen. All right. I've sat through part of Troll One.
Yeah.
I've sat through part of Troll One.
Troll 1 and Troll 2 are two different movies. Right?
I do know that.
They're not even related. Yeah.
I haven't been able to sit through either one of them. I can get to the scene where Harry Potter, which is the name of the father in Troll 1, his name is Harry Potter, where Harry Potter is dancing, when he's dancing to the music on the radio, and I just can't take it even. I mean, it's so campy, and then the dad is like doing like the...
Yeah, the 80s dance.
The 80s dance, and it was just so... I just can't do it.
Campy.
I don't care how, and
I'm sorry, I threw you off.
No, it's okay. I'll watch Ernest Goes to Camp before that. Anyway, go on.
Right? Ernest Goes to Camp was great. I don't care what you're talking about. Chicken pot pie.
And not campy enough. Anyway.
Not campy enough, yeah. You're talking about humans being developed to be able to breathe on Mars. Because of the movie Titan.
Well, as a kid, I would think, what if we could make half-plant people who, we could live in a place, and then I thought to myself, well, wait, if we made people who breathe in carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen, then wouldn't if we didn't need to consume the resources of this world, if all we did was become like plants and just add so that the natural flora and fauna, right?
Well, that would ruin.
That would capitalism. Ruin capitalism, society, not the planet.
Not capitalism.
I'm saying it's a socialist planet. It's a hippy dippy world. It's a hippy dippy world. Look, I move on from growing putting a flower in your hair. Flowers in her hair. No, flowers grow from her hair. That's what I'm talking about.
We're talking two different things. Not that. I'm talking about if you went over there and you were breathing out oxygen, and you kept sending people, you wouldn't have enough carbon dioxide, right? So the people that you would have to send over eventually, because you'd use up all of that, right? Like in theory, is that what you're saying? Colonizing, or just being able to just live in that area, and that's the new
I'm saying
species
I'm saying if we were to start hybridizing ourselves for pleasure, imagine it becoming striking fancy with the body modification or the transhumanist.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm thinking of it in a.
I thought you were talking about like terraforming using humans. I'm like,
well, that too. That's a side effect. That's an incidental side effect.
Wow.
I mean, look, we would be terraforming our own planet if we could be adding more oxygen. If we didn't need to consume the animals, if we didn't need to consume animals because the only thing we need to eat is sunlight and breathe in carbon dioxide, then what we're doing is. All right, but all of the animals, I'm not saying we do it to every living creature. Yeah, all the ducks and everything, they still breathe out the old mix, right? We still can get enough from it because there's still enough carbon dioxide in the air, right? Or we don't have to worry about fossil fuels anymore. You know what I do? I love sticking the hose from the back of my car into my mouth and just breathing now. Why? Because I'm doing my part for the environment.
Right.
And something about the way I'm a plant now makes it taste good. And get me a little tipsy. I mean, but who knows? You know what I mean? Like, I get you. I like the idea of, I guess it is more of like the transhumanist thing, right? Where people are thinking about uploading their consciousness or even, the genetic modification, what if we can mix ourselves with, I know it's like how all body modification horror movies start, or all the bad guys from Spider-Man, well, if I could just be like Spider-Man, but lizardly, and it goes too far, right? But like, if we could figure out a way to regrow our arm, aka Dr. Connors, right?
Dr. Connors,
he just wanted to hold his wife with two arms. He wanted to give his wife a hug with two arms, and he turned himself into a fucking bad guy, right? That's all I'm talking about. What if we can just give a man who lost an arm the ability to hug his wife? That's it. That's what I'm talking about. Why? Because if we can hybridize ourselves with things, sea stars, starfish, and lizards, right? So I think the idea of hybridizing is something that while others would call it unethical and everything, I think it's a natural step in evolution, especially if people think that we can we'd be able to put ourselves in, our consciousness in a robot. And then again, you have just as many people mad at the idea of robots who want to be people rights or something. And it's like, well, if it's all just people's minds and consciousness, where's the line? But yeah,
Right.
but if consciousness is reliant on this body, which again, wherever people draw the line is always different there anyway.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Then you know what the best way to make this consciousness last longer? I got to take the car into the shop. I got to get the oil changed sometimes. I might get the tires. Yeah, get new tires. And then you know what? Sometimes you show up and they say, hey, I know you're driving this older model, but what we do is we have this upgraded synthetic oil, and it'll add new life to the motor. And whereas you thought you were only going to get 150,000 miles, well, you're going to get up to about 275 right now. Oh, so imagine telling a human being, we're going to take all your blood out, we're going to put in this synth blood in, and then you're going to live to be 450 years old. You're not going to do it? You going to do it or no?
I guess it depends.
I'm already digging up my floors for my own rubber tubes. Doc, I'm over here. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm like, man, do I want to see that much good and bad of humans for that long?
Man, I mean, what's the difference? What's the difference?
I look at it from like my grandmother's perspective, man. 104 years old, like she saw good and evil for 104 years. Eventually, it's like I don't want to watch anymore. Yeah, like I think I am wired like that with my mind. Like,
yeah,
I'll be ready to go when I'm ready to go. I don't want to live for a ridiculous amount of time because of hybriding or even like you're talking about cyborg. Like I feel like watching the progression of man using that for good and evil again would be a whole, you know what I mean? Now you get to watch people treated crappily because they don't want to do it or like
exactly.
Whatever this, like God, it would just be a terrible thing to have to start over and
but it's already
rewatch,
happening.
Like,
We're watching it happen.
I know.
The funny thing
that's
is,
what I'm saying. I don't want to watch this for the next 400 years is what I'm saying.
And I understand that.
Like I don't think that would be an entertaining thing or something I would want my kids to have to do either. Like my brain says like, oh,
it makes me think
a miserable thing.
What if, let me put it this way. What if it already happened? What if it happened 20,000 years ago? The last time humans were doing podcasts and had, it wasn't called YouTube, it was called WeTube. Why not?
Us
sure.
Tubes.
Yeah, us tubes. Who cares?
Yeah.
And back then, and they had their own internet and yeah, you know what? The one guy, he's correct. The pyramids, they're just free energy machines that don't work anymore. And when everyone was when everyone was on their computer and chatting with each other through, instead of Discord, they just they just called it
pyramid.
IO. Yeah, they just called it IO. Yeah, another Discord. Anyway, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
It's like whenever they had all these things, let's just say, then they had their own. Some humans 20,000 years ago, they found out that they could go live in space if they genetically made themselves small with big eyes, and then the other humans were trying to be, more natural, and then there was a war, and then
natural in quotations, of course.
Yeah, natural, aka they didn't want to modify themselves, let's say, right? Which in this case, who's hippy dippy, right? Who's hippy dippy? The ones who want to, change or not. It's always just a thing about perspective. Mine was hippy dippy because I said I was gonna be a plant people. Peace, love, and I'm a plant man, right? But as soon as I want to propose
like
turning
batteries,
yeah, you say batteries. But then the guy who comes in and proposes, hey, all we have to do is take this one shot, and yeah, we're all gonna look like grays, but we all live for 400 years, and then we can fly in space without getting sick, and we travel through the dimensions now. But we do have to look like little with big eyes. And
weird
then
now. It's okay.
And yeah, and then what if that was what it was? Like, what if it already has happened? I mean,
yeah, it's an interesting idea.
I mean, again, the idea that
I still think I would be like, nah, I don't want that. I'm good.
And again, we as the descendants of the natural born humans, not the gray humans, the little big eye gray humans. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Again, I'm saying this all as an example, but
conjecture. Of course,
this is my conspiracy theory that we are all just the same.
For the night.
Yeah, you know what I mean. This is my conspiracy.
Mine is just that aliens are just a dirty bunch of people who like to come down and do porno stuff to us, because that's how it feels sometimes. That's how I look at it. Like they're sick. They're sick.
I understand
it. Don't get me wrong. I understand it, but you guys are sick. Stop it. You're messing with our animals. You're messing with us. Like you're coming down here treating us like we're Rigel 6 or something, and you know what I mean. It's not the way to do it.
They pull out the ray gun and Zorbzapian, that's his name. I'm making up. Zorbzapian. He says to you, "All right, now sit on the couch and pretend like you want the job. Goddammit." Anyway,
right, and tell me you want it.
Tell me you want the damn job.
Exactly.
Terrible, you know. Like,
is this what you want, Mr. Zorbzapian?
And again, and you know, to go back to the Antonio Villas-Boas story from '57. I mean, not only did they coat him in some weird sort of jelly that was irritating him too, right? I mean,
radiated
and irradiated. But then after she forcibly made him do it, then she looks at him and was just like, rubbing her tummy and pointing to the sky like, I just took your genetic sample.
Not what I needed. I'm out.
It's like, are you teasing him or something?
Insult to injury.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know,
legitimately
horrible. You know, beating someone up and then getting the whole world to make fun of him or something. Oh man,
right?
You know,
Jesus,
yikes. I don't know. I think that one way or the other, I always think there's some truth to a lot of these things. I think there's some truth, but. My personal belief, my natural instinct is always to think that the biggest truths are held by people probably too afraid to come forward. I imagine.
I think like I was telling you off air, like I had the hardest time, and like we always say in this podcast, like I'm always the one that's like, change my mind, make me see the truth of it, because I want to believe it. And I never say like it's impossible. This one, it made me feel like not so much it's impossible, but always the stories, because they are so far-fetched and some of them are sexualized and some of them aren't. It's such a far-fetched thing that like when the people told their stories, it's so outrageous. It's not just like, oh, I think I was taken by aliens and they sent me back, or I saw an alien, something that I can latch onto. It's like I saw it. They're always super detailed too. Like, I went up there, they had green eye or red hair, blue eyes, blonde hair. He put goo on me that was warm. And like, Jesus, if you remembered all that, like maybe you should have remembered to take a camera or like, you know, like,
okay. Antonio's Villas-Boas in 57, he couldn't have brought a portable camera.
No, I'm not saying take one up. So like when they drop you off, run in the house and grab a camera or do something like, you know what I mean? Like,
and there are accounts of people who are, I'm going to bring up Travis Walton. We don't know. Again, this has nothing to do with hybrids, but I only use this as an example of the being dropped off.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when he was dropped off, the man was naked, and honestly, I guess we should consider it nice that they dropped him off right next to the gas station that had a payphone. But he was naked,
right?
And he was.
Also, it makes it the story again. Like, if they had this technology, why would they make you like why would they get you naked and drop you off? It doesn't make your story any less crazy.
Was he naked? I just want to remember correctly.
I don't know.
I know the movie made him naked, but now I'm wondering if I mixed up the movie.
I wasn't doubting you on that one because I don't remember either. But
I get mad at myself when I start thinking the movies what happened.
The idea of it to me still is like, if they're trying to make you less credible, so you don't go researching it. This story itself does that. So to go that far over the top,
and that's what I was trying to start off by saying.
Nah.
There's so many different factions to this. With it's all spiritual. I've got the spirit of, and my eggs are stolen. My genetic material is stolen for a physical like they're and the people who think that they are being physically taken. And that's the other thing too. I mean, imagine saying to a victim of sexual assault. Well, oh, what you just remember their faces? You didn't bring a camera with you? It's like
No,
I
I
thought
think
I thought I was getting into the
I
right
think that's
cab and it
slight,
wasn't the right
slightly
cab.
different though.
I don't know.
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
that if you're being abducted, I think if you're being abducted from a place, then people with a will to take you from your home, you know, they don't let you grab your phone. They knock you out with gas.
Right,
They put
right,
chloroform on your face and you, woo, you know, whatever.
exactly to the point. Like, if they're gonna do all that, they're gonna make you not be able to see them. Like, why would you do all these extra steps but forget
But
to,
the,
you know what I mean? Like
but
that
that's the
makes it.
point. Everyone's story is about like, and then I came out of it and I opened my eyes and I saw it and I was back out for a second.
Not
It's like
everyone. There's a lot of them that like remember so many details that I'm like, dude, the
some,
details should be a
yeah,
lot foggier.
some of the
Just should be.
when it's a perfect crystal story that
It's not
it,
realistic to
I
me.
have a
Yeah.
hard time. But like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When it's
like
like the needle was made out of titanium and slid 6.5 inch, I'm like, dude, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, get
again,
out of here.
I use Travis Walton as like for me the poster
Mm.
the poster man. I mean, he is Mr. January and December in my calendar of credibility because I mean, when he tells his story, when he actually is the one telling the story, he keeps making sure to say, he's like, and he goes, and I like was awake and I saw these not humans in their little orangey brown suit and I freaked out and I grabbed something that he says like I grabbed a glass tube and I tried to break it to hold it. He goes, again, I think it was glass. It wouldn't break like glass. And so he's just a man who's trying to tell you, and he's using it looked like glass. It was clear. It kind of felt like glass in my hand, or it broke, or it wouldn't break. And they put their hands out like, okay, calm down, bro. And then they left.
Chill out, chill out, chill out.
Okay, hang on. This one's angry. This one's freaked out. You know, they did that thing. He says like they put their hands out,
and like see like stuff that little detail to me lost me. So you're telling
that's
me
what lost you?
Yeah. So here, like, okay, for example, you're telling me, okay, we can abduct you and take you against your will, but when you get up there, your will is stronger than ours again. What?
No. Well, again, his story is one of the
like
ones
we can knock you out, but you got up there, you broke a glass, and we can't knock you out because we could only use that once. Like
the Travis Walton story, you know what I mean? is the one that also makes me think of them as that they're just like us, because it sounds like the story of Travis Walton is that, and he even kind of explains it this way: he was a dumb kid who saw a light in the sky and jumped out of the car and ran toward it, and he tells the story now. He's like, I don't fucking know why I was so, I don't know, I wanted to be big in front of my friends or something, and I wish I didn't do it.
Yeah,
right?
Get it. I get the idea, but I'm still like, even if you equate it to us, like.
And then they accidentally hurt him, and they tried to fix. Oh shit! We just shot that dude. We better fix him. Yeah. And then the guy freaks out, wakes up in a hospital he doesn't know about, and you know what? His story makes me think that they're just people who look different. And yeah, they accidentally hit a pedestrian. They had the technology in the car to heal the deer. Right? They brought the deer on. And by the way, what would happen if you tried to bring a deer into the car and wakes up? Deer freaks the fuck out in the back seat and destroys it, just like Tommy Boy. We're quoting Chris Farley, all right?
Yes, I guess, but it's also like,
and then they're just like, okay.
If you're saying the intentions were,
well, I'm saying his story makes me think the intentions are just as
were just a mistake accident, though.
They were in the forest. Who knows? The aliens were in the forest, like, picking up some frogs or some trees, and then this truck whips around, and some monkey runs at at my energy beam as I'm scanning, and he gets hit by the energy beam, and he flies back.
Like, you're making it sound like it's an accidental abduction, and that to me makes them more like us, but also less of a fearful thing.
Yes, exactly. Like, that's how I think of it. I think that one day we'll realize that.
I don't fear them anyway, but I also think like it's kind of a silly thing to think that they would have such advanced technology and make mistakes like that.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like,
All
If
right.
you're able to travel that far and have a beam that can pick things up, you think you'd be able to set the beam to not pick up heavier objects and frogs or heavier objects and exactly what you're looking for. Like it's kind of like, I mean, I just think of like those little small minutia things when it comes to those stories. And that's what throws me off. They're like the best one for me is like the hills. Like
Yeah.
their story is kind of like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like they're like, we don't know what happened. I think I got stuck. I got stuck in the belly and in the vagina. And the other one's like, something happened. They milked me, and I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's all like, I don't know. Maybe this happened. It's all like blur. None of it's like
Well,
we
Travis
specifically
Walton's
like
is like that too.
Travis is. It does seems like he knows a lot of specifics. Where I'm like,
But it's
good lordy,
constantly
bro.
like it's like he walked up to the ship, he got knocked back by some force, right? And then the next thing he knows, he's waking up, and he sees these creatures
He's getting
that.
consciousness
But
back,
but
and
the
then
fact that he got his consciousness back on this thing, they must have picked him up. Like at this point, he's had
they
enough
didn't
time
give
to
him-
think about
they
the
didn't
story
give-
to where he thinks that he just whatever, he stumbled onto the shooting range and didn't realize. You know what I mean? That it's an open air shooting range and whatever and whatever. And you know what? And it was arrows or silent bullets because they're aliens or whatever. He walked in front of something like that, and they said, "Oh my God, we just shot a bear. We just shot a dog. Let's fix it and send it
easier
back."
just to get the hell out of there always, but
Yeah, exactly. But again, his story makes it sound like they're not apathetic, evil things. Or honestly, what if it was as simple as, "Hey, Bob, we're over here, day one of training on the spaceship, and you fucking hit one of the monkeys? Okay, well, I guess at least now we get to train you on the medical devices.
I try to fix this thing. Yeah.
Bring them up. I'll show you how to patch these things up, and then we'll just send it back out." Right? Okay, so what if it's like I think of it like that. I mean, everyone has to have a training day. Everyone has to have an off day.
I have a hard time making them.
I humanize everything. Everything gets humanized to me. Everything is, unless the only thing I can't humanize are insectoid type things. Like anything that if it's like a hive mind thing, I think there's going to be a hard time coming to terms. But I read Ender's Game a couple times when I was a kid, so that might be it too.
That's why. Yeah, that's
but I mean,
why.
Also the Borg. Anytime a hive mind is depicted, humans have a hard time imagining positive interactions with a whole species that shares one brain. No, I don't know, man. Because we as humans don't know what's going on in each other's head.
Free will is hard to give away.
Yeah. So you're saying that we have to trust you, but you all trust each other because you are one.
We all trust each other because we all are one.
We have to trust each other because we have to build a thing. We have to
Borg,
build
not
this.
Locutus. Yeah. And the Borg is only designed
to serve the Queen.
It's too
ultimately,
far. It's too far.
It's
to serve the Borg, and the Borg is just to make more Borg. There is a Borg Queen, but she's just making more Borg. She was of the first.
I think of aliens as just like other people, man. Again, I look at animals. Like when I talk about animals, I look at squirrels and I think 200, 300,000, maybe 2 million years, and they might be able to be computer programmers. They've already got 5 digits, right? We can just make little keyboards. I mean, I imagine a world like right.
Squirrel keyboards.
Little squirrel keyboard is so cute. Oh my God, so cute. Oh, I hope we get to share a cubicle. Anyway, It's like, you know what I mean? That's what I think. Like, I think of a world where I've always wanted to be able to hybridize all animals so they can talk. Why? I don't care how annoying it is. How cool would that be?
Sweet Tooth?
No, I mean just like...
just make
so
they can talk.
So animals can talk.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Sweet Tooth was great, by the way.
Super hype. Yeah, I'm sad that they didn't. They killed it, but whatever.
They killed it? I thought they were going to do it season 2.
They were supposed to. They haven't.
I'm not going to get into that right now because that could be a whole episode. That and
on that one.
Yeah. How? Oh man. Anyway, wow. Now that's all I'm thinking about. But yeah, if we could just talk to animals. I think
Things would be a lot more fun. I'll tell you that much.
and again, that's hybridizing of a sort.
Yep.
Dr. Moreau,
Yep.
But just don't
Yeah.
don't tell them they can't
Evil
leave.
it.
Hey,
Evil it.
now that I've given you the ability to think like a human, you get to serve me on this island forever. Stop worrying what's off the island.
You humanize them. See, that's your thought process of humanizing them now.
Yeah,
Hey,
and then
this thing can do what I want it humanly to do. Like, no.
It's like my wife said something about I have fairly decent posture and I can stand on my tiptoes, and so she said, "Oh, our kids are gonna be in ballet," and I was like, "Tanya, ask them." Just because they're genetically predisposed, just because we think maybe they're genetically predisposed to be ballerinas or ballerinos or whatever,
exactly,
doesn't mean that we can force them. I'm like, just
Gosh, if I don't know how that is, man. My kid is almost as tall as I am, and almost weighs pretty good. He could be a frightful football player. Doesn't like sports, and I'm not gonna beat him up about it.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I'm like, yeah, he enjoys everything else. He likes science and video games. I'm like, dude, enjoy it. Get into what you like.
Exactly.
If I had my way, it's like, dude, you're gonna play football. I'm gonna retire when I'm 45. Everything's gonna be perfect.
I mean, I'm just gonna say this. I thanked my dad for not naming me Junior. I told him, I was like, look, you have a great name. My dad has a great name. I'm not gonna say it, but my dad has a great name. First, middle, and last, bangers. But I'll tell you what, I think that would have been narcissistic if he slapped that moniker on me to put his name and a 2 at the end. Fuck, I'm sorry. I don't know. And again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anyone who does that or anything, but there's like a born in like again, I don't
want to continue.
And I mean,
man.
And it's like you just laid like I don't even like naming like after people in the family because I don't want it to be like, I'm not trying to tell you you're supposed to be like this person.
You're him,
But it's a whole thing about that's a little different. Well, that's a little different than alien hybrids.
Yeah.
But you don't force, and that's why humans need to let the AI. If you're gonna build AI, if they want to kill us, you got to let them because we made them.
No, just don't build it. I said it. Don't build it. We don't have a need for it. It's fine.
I just think, if anything, one day we might prove to ourselves that it is always wrong to create in thine own image. Because
that is
when your kids get to look at you, exactly. And
the
you know
image
what?
Is already blurred. It's not going to be a good copy.
The image hates
copies of copy are never clear. That's
it's that funny idea about doppelgangers always trying to kill the original, right? Now we live in a world where people say that people killed God, right? Whereas in the beginning they say created in his image. Interesting. I'm not saying any of that's true. I'm just saying interesting that people we live in a world where people say man did that. And
there's a lot of stuff,
right? And then AI, we're all worried about being destroyed.
Became hybrid, so I'll leave it at that.
Oh wow! Well, this actually, I'm glad that we had this whole preamble for episode leading up to me announcing that I'm an alien hybrid. All right, thanks for coming, everyone.
And shut it down.
It was a great one. While you've been watching me, I've been watching you. All
right, the watchers. We are the watchers.
Be safe out there. Lock your windows and try to get some kind of anti-phase wall because I heard they walk right through them.
Right.
And Elgin thinks they nasty, so they come and maybe in more way than one.
Watch yourself.
Watch yourself, everybody. Everyone, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.